evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your Shut the Fuck Up Express. We're going to close out 2021 talking about some of my least favorite people on, one of my least favorite holidays. I am not a fan of New Year. I'm not a fan of a lot of holidays, but I've never been into New Year's. What the fuck? Seriously. Do you expect this to get any better in 2022? Because I don't. I don't have that innate optimism. And the reason I don't have that innate optimism is I'm looking around me every fucking day. So we're going to start this out with a doozy. Quote, the unselect committee of radical left Democrats, okay, spare me, okay, and two failed Republicans, and we know who those are, that's Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, has just dropped a large portion of their request for my records and documents. A very big story, even though the New York Times refused to put it on the front page. No shit. Poor Donald, huh? The reason that they dropped the records request is that they don't want this horror show to happen to Biden and Hunter in 3 years. This also changes the entire complexion of their request. Not that there are any documents that would be incriminating or a problem for me, but the witch hunt continues. End quote. Oh, Donald Trump continues to paint himself as a victim. Donald Trump is an insurrectionist, treasonous pig, okay? Let's have some facts here. What happened on January 6th was he incited a riot. In fact, he built up for weeks before January 6th by lying to the American people about how the election was stolen, okay? This entire shitstorm falls on his lap. The buck stops with Donald Trump. Anybody who had anything to do with this was doing this for his benefit. We already know that there was a memo on how to uncertify the results of the election. They tried that before the insurrection. When that didn't work, we had the insurrection. And right now, all across the United States on a state-by-state basis, they are filing bills to interfere with the process of voting. And it is designed to marginalize certain groups of people when it comes time to vote. And, let's be honest, it'll be people of color. It'll be poor people. It'll be gay America. And anybody who doesn't fit the white supremacist model built by Donald Trump. And we already know all of that. None of this can be denied. We already know that people inside our government, 149 legislators out of 221 on the Republican side, voted to overturn the election without any evidence of why they wanted it overturned, other than their Lord and Master wanted to be president. And none of this can be denied at this point. There is just simply already too much shit in the pipeline. Okay? I'm going to put some of that shit in this video. Again, I understand where you're coming from. It's tough when 50% of the American population cannot read above a 6th grade level. It's also tough when the majority of America gets its news from Facebook and other social media websites, which, quite frankly, is a shithole. And personally, when I'm done trying to wake you people up, I will never be on social media again. You will never see me here. You will never see me on a video. The only thing I will probably do is promote my radio station, if indeed I'm still doing that. I have no idea where I'm going. And I have no idea what I'm doing long term because I don't live that way. But he's the number one target, and he can shut the fuck up. He's the number two target because this is, closely allied to this topic. Quote, there is an overwhelming case that will eventually be made that this was a setup. Those leading the charge into the building were in fact infiltrated by Antifa, and that, yes, some innocent people engaged in trespassing. Roger Stone. you can shut the fuck up because you're nothing but a fucking criminal too. In fact, Donald Trump doesn't have anybody in his inner circle that isn't a grifter or a criminal. His entire family is full of grifters and criminals. And Roger Stone, of course, was talking to OAN or Trump Network, whichever you want to call it. Antifa wasn't at the January 6th insurrection. Black Lives Matter did not incite that riot, and neither did Antifa. They did not break into the building. They did not beat the shit out of the Capitol Police with battering rams, pipes, poles. They didn't spray bear spray in people's faces. All of that shit was brought to Washington by the right wing with the intention of doing exactly what they did. Okay? And anyone who believes the line that Antifa infiltrated and gave all of these weapons to all of these people in Washington is just more fucking lies. Do these people ever get sick of fucking lying? And I got a bigger question. Don't you people ever get sick of listening to these lies? Because this is utter bullshit. There is far too much information already that is in the pipeline where the January 6th committee is concerned that proves that this is, without a doubt, a premeditated situation. A little fact of life is that Donald Trump incited this. He started it weeks before January 6th. He tried to overturn the election in a peaceful manner by, subverting the democratic process. Okay, and when that didn't work, his little minions broke into the Capitol. And now what are they doing? They're whining about how Donald Trump made them do it. You know what? You're all fucking adults. Shut the fuck up. Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene. You want to talk about some fascism? Marjorie Taylor Greene has suggested that people who are moving from blue states to red states, so say California to say, Georgia, her state. She is suggesting that people who move to conservative states from liberal states not be allowed to vote. They need a cooling off period. So they should not be allowed to vote. And they should also have to pay a tax to atone for their sins. Because, hey, they're coming to Georgia because they ruined their state. And we want to make sure, of course, that they're assimilated as right-wing fucking nitwits before we allow them to vote. If that doesn't stink of fascism, nothing does. Marjorie Taylor Greene is another one we can put on the list for removal. In fact, in reality, there are 149 Republican legislators out of 221 who voted to overturn a legitimate election based on lies and innuendo. And honestly, that is the only thing the right wing has. Lies and innuendo. And apparently that's enough for the American people, who have now become so dumbed down that they can't read above 6th grade level. They don't understand what facts are versus opinion, and they can't tell the difference between bullshit and gold lame. You know what? This country is fucked. And if anybody doesn't think that's true, they need to wake up, and they need to wake up soon. Number 3. Apparently now, electing quacks is the new thing in America. In Michigan, we have Garrett Soldano running. He's a chiropractor who refers to himself as a doctor. And, he may be a doctor of, chiropractic techniques, but he's not a fucking doctor. He certainly isn't an internist. He certainly isn't an infectious disease specialist. He's an anti-lockdown opportunist looking for his day in the limelight. And he's running now against Gretchen Whitmer. And this is the man who originally, before he decided to run for governor, came out with the statement that he had $75 a month. You could buy juice, and it was going to own coronavirus. It was going to own coronavirus. By the way, 846,900 dead in America right now from coronavirus. So I'm pretty sure it didn't own much of it. But Garrett Soldano is a snake oil salesman and a lying sack of shit and a right-wing loser. And he is running in Michigan. And we have another right-wing loser. His name is Dr. Oz, who claims he doesn't endorse products. You know, let's talk about him for a minute. We got some dirt on Dr. Oz too, the famous Dr. Oz. It's amazing to me that the guy is running as a Republican, but he's running as a Republican because he wants to save America. I mean, I wonder how the GOP feels about the fact that they have a candidate in Pennsylvania who was actually created by Oprah Winfrey, another pseudoscience nut, who has given a platform to every kind of fucking lunatic selling supplements, and Jenny McCarthy, who sold a line of shit about autism and the measles MMR vaccine. She's given all these people a rise to their fame. And, I don't deny that Dr. Oz was a great surgeon. He was when he did surgery, but he's made far more money peddling supplements and lies and fat burners than he's ever done in the medical profession on his own, performing legitimate tasks that a thoracic surgeon would perform. That's what he is. So let's talk about this, okay? He managed to spend his time on Fox and Friends touting hydroxychloroquine to fight coronavirus. We already know that that's a fucking joke. None of the supposed science behind this drug has ever been replicated or proven. There has been one French doctor who did some research on the drug, but one study of 24 patients doesn't prove a goddamn thing. That is not the way science works. And you know what? Dr. Oz, as a legitimate doctor with an Ivy League degree, he actually knows that. Okay? That was his first claim. His second claim, he's been on television more times. He's been on the runway at the Blue Jacket Fashion Show during Fashion Week in New York, and he's got more shit to burn your fat than you can shake a stick at. First it was Garcinia Cambogia. Is that what that was? Yeah. You could buy those little tablets and take those. None of that stuff works. Raspberry ketones was another one. The number one miracle in a bottle to burn your fat. This is all coming from a doctor, okay? He also has been on the Forbes Healthcare Summit saying that astrological signs may reveal a great deal about our health. Green coffee extract has scientists saying they found the magic weight loss cure. There's another one for you. Okay? Yep. Unfortunately, the green coffee extract is not a magic cure. It's not a cure at all, according to the Federal Trade Commission, which brought a lawsuit against a Texas-based company that used a hopelessly flawed study to support its weight loss claims about the coffee extract. The study was later cited by Dr. Oz on his television show. He has also said that most countries require genetically modified foods to have special labels. Now, most studies have shown that GMO foods are not unsafe, that they are actually safe for human consumption. Do I think that foods need to be labeled? I don't see the harm in labeling them. But the fact of the matter is, his statement that most countries require foods to be labeled as such is not true. Most countries do not require GMO labeling. All right? And that is according to the Genetic Literacy Project. You ready for this one? Here's another one too. I don't even know if I can say this one. The umcalobo root extract, quote, has been incredibly effective at relieving cold symptoms, even though it isn't. There are no studies proving any of that. He also recommends lavender soap to cure leg cramps. Strawberry and baking soda can whiten your teeth. And I mean, I don't need to go on anymore here. This guy is running for the Senate. We have enough problems in this country. And the last thing that we need is another pseudoscientist in public office. We are in a world of trouble here, people. We are in a world of trouble. Dr. Oz can shut the fuck up. And I'm going to close out today with one of my personal favorites to dislike, and his name is RFK Jr., a man who has used the Kennedy name and is standing because, honestly speaking, he didn't make enough money in environmental law. So what he did was he basically became one of the Disinformation Dozen. He is listed as one of the biggest purveyors of anti-vax bullshit on the planet. If you go to his, and of course it's all for the children. It's all for the children. If you go to the Children's Health Defense, you go and you look at the science, there really isn't any science there that hasn't been either twisted, misquoted, or simply doesn't exist. He has now gone from being an environmental lawyer to being a pharmaceutical ambulance chaser. Before COVID hit, his favorite target was Gardasil, which was going to maim and harm millions of teenagers across the country. That has never materialized, quite frankly. His statement was based on one case, supposedly, of damage to a person, a kid who got a Gardasil shot. I don't know that that's ever been established. RFK Jr. made a big thing about that. But what RFK Jr. didn't tell you was that the big-ass law firm that actually has that case, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is sitting on the chair for that case. I actually don't know where that case is. I can't seem to find it right now. I don't think anything has ever happened because I'm pretty sure we would have seen it on RFK Jr.'s website. I will look into that, though, because I'm not done with Robert Kennedy. We're actually going to be doing a lot more about him. We're going to unveil a lot of shit about this guy. So there is one thing I do want to say, and I did mention this in another video, is that RFK Jr. had a big holiday party at his house, and the invitations apparently went out requiring people to either be vaccinated or to test before they come. Now, RFK Jr. actually threw Cheryl Hines, his charming and delightful wife, under the bus on that one, saying that apparently he's not the master in his own home. I'm going to bet you dollars to donuts the son of a bitch is vaccinated, because one thing that you know about purveyors of bullshit is that they don't really care if they're doing you harm as long as they're taken care of. And RFK Jr., he's got a long line, a long history of throwing his wives under the bus. This is wife number 3. He was married, and he proposed to his second wife while he was still married to his first wife, even though he told his second wife that he was already divorced. His second wife, Mary, by the way, suffered through, he's stated himself that, his libido is as big fault and his big problem. She suffered through numerous affairs with this guy. He divorced her in 2010, and she hung herself and killed herself in 2012. Now, I don't really get into this personal stuff, but this stuff goes to character here. And to me, I'm sorry. When I heard that he threw his wife under the bus on the vaccine thing, I said, this is a long-standing thing with RFK Jr. It really is. I'll put the link to the book in here if you want to read it. But he actually documents many affairs in his little black book. He was such an egomaniac that he kept a record of all the women he was buffing while he was married. And it was actually leaked to the press. And it's actually a legitimate document. And a book was actually written. And since Robert F. Kennedy didn't sue anybody for slander, we can pretty much be assured that they weren't lying about this. But he's counting on you not caring about the fact that he has no character as he continues to wind his way to fame and fortune. Because quite frankly, since COVID-19, he has turned children's health defense into a $6.8 million enterprise based on money that you donate to him. And what is he actually doing with that money? What is he actually doing with that money? How is he benefiting you? How is he protecting your children? By spreading misinformation? I don't think that's protecting people much. Let me also remind you about RFK Jr. He takes charity money from a right-wing fascist medical freedom group, and I will put that group in here and you can see for yourselves. RFK Jr., he may have the Kennedy name, and I'm not saying that his father was great. His father had his demons too. The Kennedy boys, they like their women, there's no question about it. But I have to say this, RFK Jr., he breaks new ground for his treatment of women. There is absolutely no question about it. But as far as public service, he doesn't have that portion of the Kennedy DNA. He's sadly lacking in all of that. That is it for tonight. I do have others I will continue with tomorrow. I don't want to make these too long. But you know what? There's something to be said here. I'm going to suggest to you that you don't want to get your news off social media. If you're not reading, I feel bad for you. You have to learn to read more than memes. And you have to learn to read what comes out from legitimate and, yes, mainstream media sources. Because as I have said to you in the past, they are highly vetted. They have attorneys that will not allow them to publish unless they have proof. They have editors who will not allow bullshit to be published. And this is why you read the mainstream media. I do not deny that there are some that lean left and some that lean right. And you know what? You may not like the spin on the Wall Street Journal if you're on the left, but if it's coming from the Wall Street Journal, it's an event that's actually happening. You may not like the spin on the Washington Post if you're on the right, but if the Washington Post is publishing it, it's happening. Everything else in between, The Last American Vagabond, The Corbett Report, all of your great truthers out there, Candace Owen, Joe Rogan, a failed stand-up comic who pretends to be knowledgeable about just about everything. All of your fucking news sources are leading you down the garden path. Okay? And let me, at this point, say goodnight and wish you a happy new year. I'm going to watch horror movies because, I don't know, it seems I live in one. So I'd like to watch some fantasy for a change. Have a nice night.